Welcome to the Legacy and Light podcast, where we are creating a culture of community by sharing stories of what God has done. I'm super excited. Today, we have Julia Copeland.
Hello.
On the podcast, and I'm so thankful that you were willing to be here on a day that you're not supposed to be working.
Hey, that's okay. This isn't work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you and where are we most likely to find you around the church?
Okay, so I'm Julia Copeland. I am the director of hospitality here, which, what does it mean?
So fancy.
Like a bunch of random stuff. But I really love it. So I actually started working here a little over 10 years ago. And so 10 years. So initially kind of thought I wanted to do children's ministry. That's what my mom does. She's the children's minister here. And so grew up in that life and really thought that's what I wanted to do. Went to school for teaching for a little bit and then was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a teacher. And then was like, I mean, I love kids, but I don't want to do that either. So around that time, we were looking for a new college pastor. And then as people will remember, Brandon Hayes kind of took on that role. Not kind of, he did. And I started working alongside him and your husband, David, and really kind of found, I feel like, the sweet spot of what I kind of felt like I was called to do, but I didn't really know that. And so I did college ministry with them for about 5 years. And then when Brandon moved to be the next gen pastor, kind of followed him with that and did that for a little bit. And then in February of last year, stepped into this role. So probably on Sunday mornings, mostly I'm in or around the venue. That's the service that I attend and kind of help gather volunteers and things like that for. But throughout the week, just kind of random all over the place. They kind of joke I'm the Swiss Army knife because it's just a lot of random things that I get to do, which I actually really love it that way. So yeah, that's kind of where you'll find me around here. So
I love that so much.
Yeah.
We're so grateful for all of the things that you do. Because truly, even if it feels like just like a bunch of little random things, it's a lot that you do.
Thanks.
And we are very grateful for you.
Thank you.
Even if they don't know that it's you that's doing it.
I know, which is usually fine with me. I don't like being on stage or anything like that. I like run out of air, when you're up there and you start talking. And then I have to breathe. I'm like, okay, send me back and hide me somewhere. So I like it that way.
Your mom is Pam.
Yes.
So you grew up here.
Yeah.
Coming to church all of the time.
Yeah.
So when did you come to know Jesus?
Yeah. So I was 7 or 8 years old and we were at GA camp.
Woo.
And I should probably remember if I was 7 or 8. I think I was 8, but I wanted to be 7 because I was like, 7 is the number. But I was 7 or 8 and we were at GA camp, which is actually at Plains Baptist Assembly. So it's cool that we go back there for so many retreats and camps and things like that. But crazy enough, Pastor David was the speaker and his son Josh was there, like leading worship, I think. So he probably would have been just a few, like in high school maybe. Anyways, and I just remember him sharing the gospel. And I remember so clearly, I went and found this lady and was like, I need you to go find my mom. Like, I've got to talk to her. And I remember we just sat out there and I so clearly understood the gospel. It wasn't a, like, oh my goodness, I'm scared of hell but just, hey, this is who Jesus is. And, that God sent him for us. And it just, I understood. And so to the best I could at that age, right? So many, I know, have a story where they maybe didn't fully understand it at that age, but I just remember having, like, even thinking back, I'm like, no, I had such like peace and clarity and right, you can only understand so much at that age. But I still was, it was so clear, so evident to me. And so, that's my story of kind of when I remember being saved and was baptized. Pastor Danny baptized me shortly after that, and which is so cool. Which, side note, really cool story. The day I was baptized is the same day as my work anniversary here and the same day that my first nephew was born. So it's just cool. It's like a really special date. And so anyways, side note. But anyway, and then as I kind of grew up in the church, I was here all of the time, but I have no like angry or frustrated thoughts about being at church all of the time. Like, I loved it. Like, I really did. I loved being here. I loved just getting to be a part of everything. And I look back and I'm like, what did my parents do that, was so special? But I think they were just faithful. And I saw them living out at home, what they were doing here. There truly was just like there was not this huge difference. And so I think that has a ton to do with it. And I would say probably more, I was very involved all throughout, middle school, high school, but probably in high school and college was really when I started not necessarily making my faith my own, but just learning what it looked like for me to live out what I have been saying I believe, right? And what it looked like to be in the Word and to live a gospel-centered life, right? And I was not perfect. I mean, I look back and I see I was so many times very entitled and kind of bratty because I was here all the time. I just thought, oh, everybody knows me and it's great. And it was just because I was here a lot. And I remember in college, I kind of tried to hide for a while serving in the children's ministry because I didn't really want to go to the college ministry and like have to meet new people. And it's my little introverted self coming out. And one of the gals, her name is Amy, and her husband was helping in the college ministry. And we used to have a building down, it's that way, by campus. And back in the day. And for Wednesday night Bible study, she would cook meals for everybody. And she kind of pulled me in and was like, hey, come help me cook the food. And I remember being like, nobody here knows me and whatever. And like, I've been here forever. And it was just like, I think a clarifying moment of like, hey, it doesn't matter. And like, nobody really cares. And that was okay. Like I needed to put myself out there. I needed to meet other people, not tied to who I was as, I say pastor's kid. I know she's not a pastor, but I lived the life of being here all the time.
Yes.
A minister's kid. And anyways, I started meeting people that I didn't know that were here for college or things like that, and really started creating those relationships. And that was through really her pulling me in. I love to cook. And so we cooked for, 40, 50 students on Wednesday nights for a long time. Wow. Me and her and our friend Nicole. And so, yeah, it was super fun. And that's kind of, I think, really one of the turning points that I remember in my mind. And then from there, it's just, every year, every couple years, there's kind of a theme that I feel like the Lord is teaching or working on me in, just kind of depending on where I am in life and kind of what's going on. And then, so here we are.
Yeah. Well, what a blessing to kind of go against the stereotype of like minister's kid and having to go, I'm not gonna say wayward, but kind of, like.
And I mean, I really don't know why. I mean, I give all the credit to my parents, and my mom's always like, tell your therapist it's my fault. And I'm like, Mom, you say that? I know. Like, stop. But I just saw, I didn't see them bring home, like the really hard and ugly stuff that I know everybody deals with in church or in life. I didn't see that, like, that wasn't talked about in our home in a way that was like really negative. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
So just the Lord's kindness, really.
You started working here. Did you have a different maybe vision of what God was wanting from you, or were you just ready to walk through life with open hands?
Yeah. I mean, I think I really thought children's ministry was what I wanted to do, but then there's also like, I couldn't just work under my mom, as her daughter. And so I worked alongside Danny for a while, kind of in the family ministry realm, and still just didn't really know what I was bent towards. I loved, helping at D-Nows and things like that, but still just didn't really know. And I feel like it wasn't until we didn't have a college pastor for a while. Brandon was still in middle school, pastoring there. And I just was kind of like, hey, I think I might like doing that. Like, I think I might like working with college students, getting to meet with gals. And I feel like I don't know exactly when I was called to ministry necessarily, but I do know it just didn't look the same as like teaching and being on stage, things like that. And so I didn't know what it was supposed to be. And I feel like Brandon and Lauren both really saw and enabled me allowed me to grow, and they would, kind of say, hey, this is what I see. They helped me grow in those things because I am very administratively gifted, but I also want to be with the people. And so it was just kind of a very unique, like there's not really a exact position for that. And so he kind of created this ministry coordinator role where I feel like I really got to have the best of both worlds. I was involved in helping and setting up events, but I was also meeting with girls and getting to do like one-on-one discipleship and leading Bible studies. And so that's kind of, I feel like my hands were open in a way I didn't really know. Because God was just kind of like, look at this. And I was like, oh, that could be cool. And then kind of came what it was. And so, it was, my hands were open, but I didn't really know. I probably wouldn't have said that they were, which I think was also just the Lord's grace and kindness, because I don't love change. It's like, I know a lot of people say that, but it is just really hard for me. And I think if you would have said, hey, you're going to actually be in college ministry for several years, I would have been like, what? No, I don't really think, like ministering to adults, I'm not sure. So anyways, and I think that it's opened doors for like even just like ministering to other adults and other women that I didn't really know would happen. And like I serve on Saturdays at the Lubbock County Detention Center, and I've done that for like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And just like would never have thought that, just ministering to other like adults. I think I just always thought like, oh, it's going to be people younger than me because that's how it works. And that hasn't been. And so that has just been really cool. And I think my time here in serving and ministering to people that were the same age as me, or even some a little older, some a little younger, has like allowed that.
Yeah. So when do you think that have you always known that you were pretty gifted in administration and organization, event planning, and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Always like organization and like lists and just like, hey, this is how, like my mind, I feel like just files things away.
Mm-hmm. And your medicine she brings an entire tub of anything you could ever think that you might need anytime we go somewhere. And it's truly
it's amazing. It's I think that's also some of my Enneagram 6, just the preparedness. My mind has just always been wired that way. It's of amazing. Like being prepared. Who might need ibuprofen and who might need, Neosporin, whatever it is. And so it always has. And so I didn't know what that looked like outside of maybe just in an administrative assistant role. And so I think when I remember, and actually this used to be his office. And so I would sit there. Yeah, his desk was over here and I would sit there and David would sit here, and we would just kind of be talking about things or events that were coming up. And part of my role was getting all of that, getting it set up and getting the room ready and things like that. But then it also got to be creative and like getting fun stuff and, hey, what are the snacks and things like that. But then I was at the events, being with the students and it just kind of, I give so much, obviously it's all to the Lord, but so much to Brandon and kind of seeing those things in me and kind of what I wanted to do and helping me put a name to it. Even though it doesn't really need that, but that ministry coordinator role I spent years doing and really feel like I flourished and kind of got to see, kind of was getting to do ministry in a way that didn't look like, Beth Moore up on stage,
Yeah.
So,
which I feel like is kind of more of what more people are actually called to do is the intentional relations with each other. There's, Jimmy and Kelly Needham. They have this whole thing about just like, you're probably called to be behind the scenes, most likely.
Yeah.
That's where
that's
God
really
wants
cool.
you in those, and you like feeling like you thrive behind, and making sure everything's working out, and just like getting such immense joy in that. There's so much value. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
And also just like your ability to also have the social aspect of that, because I do feel like maybe sometimes those don't go hand in hand as much.
Yeah.
But really wanting to disciple women and be with them in life, like do life together, that's so fabulous.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was so, I always, I like rally for that here. I'm like, guys, we need more ministry coordinators because there is just so often, and sometimes like some people don't, have that skill. But I'm like, even think about when you're you're going on a trip, whenever I think about all the, trips we take to Colorado and to Noah's and things like that, and getting to be there. But I knew all of the people, even from getting stuff ready and from the registrations and all the forms.
Yeah.
It was just a cool thing. And I don't even know how it came to be, but I love it.
I love this so much. You pour in to women all the time. Do you find value in mentorship? Like, do you have a mentor that you hold on to?
Yeah. So I don't currently have like one. I have I feel like starting in 8th grade, a gal, Brittany, her name was Schultz, now it's Strebeck. She was an intern up here. And during that, so my middle school time, there was like a hard time just in the life of Southcrest of a pastor coming, kind of not going great. He left before D-Dub came back, all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of in my middle school, very formative years. And so it was kind of very in and out with an interim youth pastor, and then one came, and then something happened, and a lot of turnover kind of for a little bit. But we had interns that were very steady, and Brittany was one of those. And so she would come pick me up from Irons, and we would go. I attribute a large love of my coffee to her. We'd go to Sugar Brown's and
50th Street.
Yes, on 50th, the OG, next to Mountain Hideaway. So we'd go there, and she just brought me in along with her and in her life, she was in college. She did not, when I look back, I'm like, whoa. When I was a sophomore, I was in her wedding, which was the coolest thing ever to me because she was so much older. But that discipleship, I feel like, really set the stage, even for where I am today, of it. We didn't even really call it that necessarily. She just kind of latched on, and I'm sure she did with multiple other gals too, but that was so evident to me. And then for a while, kind of through college and a little bit after, I would meet with Amy Jones and kind of did discipleship stuff with her. Yes, I know, miss them. So we'd kind of do that. And then funny enough, years ago, when Kelly Martin came on staff, I was like, asked her, I'm like, hey, will you like mentor me? Somebody a little bit older. And
you just asked her.
Yeah, I was like, hey, can you like mentor me and kind of disciple me? I'm looking for somebody a little older. I had attended a Sunday evening Bible study called The Well, and she was one of the teachers. And I was like, this girl knows her Bible. Like, so cool. And so but then we've just, but we've become best friends. And so I don't even necessarily look at it as like a mentorship role, but just kind of, I have a good group like with her and with Bobby Kite, and it's kind of, we are that for each other, I feel. And so yeah, I don't have necessarily somebody. There's several older people that I do feel like speak into my life. The lady that I work with at the jail, Beth Gwynn, she attends the city, but she is older and wiser and such a intercessor. I mean, the times I'm finding myself texting her, and she's so quick to share what she feel like the Lord is putting on her heart, and I've learned a lot from her too. And so, yeah, that's kind of who I have right now.
That's awesome.
And of course, my mom. So I know she's really one of my besties. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Also, I love Pamstagram.
I know it's
not on
too
Instagram
good
anymore, but Pamstagram.
Off the Insta
Just for a little bit.
That's okay.
Need to pull back.
Yeah.
Stop comparing myself to
Yes.
literally everybody that exists.
Yeah.
So, but I do miss Pamstagram.
I know. Well, I'll just start texting them to you.
That's what I want to see.
I turned on Siri on her phone the other day because I will just press it and be like, remind me I did it before, like, remind me to stop in and look at this room before I leave. And she was like, how do I do that? And I was like, well, I had turned Siri off on her phone like years ago because it would be like, whatever.
Yes.
And so I turned it back on, and I need to send you the video. She was unhinged. She was like, Siri, text Julia Copeland. I loved that lasagna dinner. And so then she was like, wow. Like, I'm sorry you've been missing this, and it's all my fault.
You were trying to protect her.
I know. She was mostly frustrated by it, but now it's just unlocked a whole new world.
That's great. I love that. So it seems that over the past few years, your faith seems to be pretty steady through all that. Have there been times in the past few years while going through different changes, because change is not our favorite thing, that you felt maybe unsure about things or just not felt as close to the Lord?
Totally. Yes. Yes, 100%. So, I in 2016 or 2017, I would always say like, oh, I'm just a worrier. I've always been a worrier. And that's not how the Lord made us to be. And so I didn't fully realize I was kind of claiming that for myself of, oh, this is just who I am, but that's not who God made me to be. And it was like that light clicked. But somebody very close to me in our family was going through a hard time and ended up getting on medicine. And I had no problem with it, but I was very prideful in like, they need medicine, but I can handle this. And the Lord just humbled me. And I got to a place where I was just so miserable. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Just so riddled with anxiety. And my mom had been saying for a long time, hey, I think you should talk to the doctor. I think you should talk to the doctor. But as it goes, when our moms tell us things, we don't always listen. And actually, Bobby Kite was like, hey, you are not meant to live this way. You need to go to the doctor. And I was like, okay. And so I ended up getting on some anxiety medicine. And there were so many things. Like I remember I am a Googler. And so I would Google all the possible, what's going to happen? What's this? What's that? Is it going to help? Is it not? How long is it going to take? And we don't know. It's different for everybody. One of my biggest things is I was like, oh, people said that after they've been on it for a while, they gain like 40 pounds. And I was like, oh my gosh, that can't happen. Bobby was like, okay, well, do you want to gain 40 pounds or do you want to keep listening or living like you're living? And I was like, okay. Yeah. Cause I couldn't function. Like I really couldn't. And so I got on medicine and here we are. Yeah. I gained weight. The things happened, but I'm just living a more free life. And I feel, and it wasn't just like all of a sudden I tried to get off them. So I'm like, I don't need this. And my doctor was like, hey, you might just need this. And so it's been a up and down battle with that for sure for this whole time. And I fully believe that God allows and wants us to use medicine. And sometimes it's for a season and sometimes it's for longer. And in my case, it's been longer. And hey, maybe one day I will be able to get off it. I don't know. But that's been a pretty steady thing in my life that I've just learned not to live with, but it doesn't fully just take everything away. Like I'm not numb to it, but I've also, it's brought me to a more level where I can have enough clarity to go, oh, okay, hey, no, here you're just trying to do this in your own control. You're not relying on the Lord or whatever it is. Cause I didn't want to get to a place where it just totally numbed it. And then it's like, oh, you have no problems. Like I think where I am, there are still times like I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. And then you have those tools like you run to the Lord, you stop, I get off my phone, whatever it is, and you just kind of learn what you need and what your body needs. And he's been kind and gracious to me through it because, you get in a really down spot and you're like, Lord, why? And then it's like, oh, okay, you get up for air. And I think he's just taught me constant reliance on him. And I used to always, if I felt anxious about something, I thought, oh, that's the Lord telling me. That was him. And it was like, I had a counselor once. It was like, hey, the Lord did not give you a spirit of fear. And I was like, oh, that's true.
You're right.
Okay. And I stopped using my anxiety as a gauge, like, because it's a really bad gauge of things. And sometimes the Lord's going to have you do stuff that's scary. But a lot of time anxiety could feel like excitement or like butterflies or something, sometimes hard to tell. And so I feel like that has been kind of a constant battle. And then also, I'm 33 and not married. And if you would have told me that in college, I would have been like, take me home now, Lord. Like, I couldn't have imagined that to be my life. And, you have those, like, I don't want anxiety or singleness to be like my stake in the ground of like, that's all they talk about or whatever. But a lot of things in the modern day church, is geared towards families a lot. It's geared towards marriage. It's geared towards having kids. And so I've learned a lot in my role of, I don't want to always be the one that's like, oh, but think about this, or think about the person that's not married. But I also think that the Lord has given me a voice to use, just who is not married or who doesn't have kids. And so that can feel super isolating. And I am in a position where I can share like with our staff about that, of like, hey, this is what that feels like as somebody who isn't married, when we talk about everything in the realm of like families or marriage, or, and I have a family because I've got parents and siblings and nephews. And so I that is still my family, but I have not created a family of my own. And it's hard. I didn't think that would be what or where I am. But then I also think that it's not an accident, and that the Lord still uses that. And so if I have to be the broken record that's like, hey, but think about, think about that. And not even just, some people are single because they might have been married and are separated, or have lost a spouse, or their family fell apart, or their spouse left, or whatever. Singleness isn't always just like you have never been married, but there are so many exceptions in, I think I just want to be so careful that we don't talk about God's design and plan for families as if it is only one thing of you get married and you have kids and this is just the circle of life. Because then I already felt often, I think growing up, I wasn't the biblical idea of a woman, like of a Proverbs 31 woman of, quiet. I'm more outspoken. I'm a little sassy. We appreciate thank you. But that, that is hard, and so I already felt like, hey, I didn't fit into this mold. And then whenever you feel like, oh, women are supposed to be moms and spouses, and it's like, well, what if you don't have a husband, and what if you don't have kids? Then what am I supposed to do? And so, don't want to be the broken record about that, but also want to realize that God's plan sometimes includes marriage, and sometimes includes kids, and sometimes it doesn't. And so, I've got 3 nephews that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and feel like, hey, don't think there's anything cooler than being an aunt. And so I'm doing that. And I really feel like I've come to a place where I'm like, Lord, if you want me to be married, somebody's going to come along. And if you don't, I'm really going to be okay. I mean, I really feel that in my bones, and not in like maybe if I let it go, you hear often when somebody's trying to get pregnant, like, just stop thinking about it and then it'll happen. And you're like, well, that's not helpful. That's not proven. But, so I just, want to be, not a spokesperson, but want to share that for just when it's easy to forget, when you are surrounded mostly by people who are married and have kids, that's not everybody's stories. And it is, you already feel isolated sometimes, with a lot of things. And I want to help others not have to feel that in the church,
Yeah.
So
I think that's absolutely beautiful. How great that you can stand up for that.
Yeah.
Because the church is made up of everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody,
For sure.
all kinds of people. And we do forget that a lot of just like, or you're trying to fit everyone into a mold.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And we do need to be ministering to families. Like I do recognize most of the people here are families. And so we need to be talking about that, and we need to be ministering to that. But even within the family, there's times I've walked alongside friends who maybe their spouse left, or maybe there was abuse, or there was death, or whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, am I outside of God's plan and design because of this? No, he knew what was going to happen. And is still there, and can still be inside of his plan, even if it doesn't look like the nuclear family. And so, yeah, just important there's still so much goodness in my life, even though, I'm not married and don't have kids.
What would be your encouragement to people that feel isolated in any aspect, or maybe just feel like the church isn't for them because it's focused on something else?
Yeah. I think just the biggest thing, like one of the biggest things that I love about serving at the jail is it has forced me to really live out like what I say I believe about Jesus, like about forgiveness. Like some of them are in there for minor things, and some of them have murdered somebody or have assaulted somebody or whatever. And it, like, if I believe what is true about the forgiveness of our sins through Jesus, that doesn't just apply to like my pretty sins of like I was angry or I gossiped or like whatever. It applies to the big stuff that we, like, these women are incarcerated for. And I think that's what I've learned being there, that it can be so, like anything where you just are like, nobody else is like this, nobody else has this problem, you have to stop. Like that's because it's not true. There is somebody else out there. And I think we should be shocked by sin because it's so offensive to the Lord. But I think we also, like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, we are all just so screwed up. And so I would say for somebody who is feeling that, like, you're just not alone. And you can choose to continue living that you're alone, or you can go and be amongst the mess of other people. And it's not fun to share. Like, you don't want to say, your secret sins of, I'm actually, like there's so many things that we elevate that people can't see, pornography addictions, same-sex attraction. Those are just the real, what we elevate to the real bad ones. But there's like, I have a lot of anger sometimes, and that's sinful. And if I keep that in and don't share, like the devil's going to always win in the dark. But when you bring that to the light, then people get to be like, oh, me too. And I've heard that from a lot of moms, like, mean mommy, angry mommy. And I'm like, probably most all other moms are like that. Like, really, like if you get with other people and you talk to them, like at home, you're going to go, I'm the only one that screams at Millie. I'm the only one. I'm the worst. Yeah. And you're not. I mean, you're really not. And so if you can't fight the devil in the dark. And so when you bring that to other people, it's hard. You have to be vulnerable, and it's going to feel scary. And like you might sometimes, I can't guarantee that people might be like, oh, I don't have that problem. But then you got to find another group. But I think if we're just really honest and you share really what's going on, you'll figure out that you're not alone. Yeah. And that's even after I remind myself, like, can't fight the devil in the dark. Yeah. So.
No, that's great. I think isolation is how the devil works.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I've seen that in my own life. I live alone. And so I can easily kind of get in this, like a little bit of a spiral of like, well, I'm alone at home. And then, you're in spaces where you feel like you're alone there because everybody is focused on something else, like their marriage or whatever. And if I stay there, then it's gonna just get worse, and I am gonna believe that I am alone. But if you come into circles of people, I mean, even like most of my friends are married. That is like most of my close friends. But they have brought me in to just be with them. And I have appreciated that more than I could even say. Because I think it can be scary, I know there are mixed views on whether, single people and married people should be in a small group together or whatever. But there are so many couples, like one of my best friends, Meredith, like I go to their house multiple times a week for dinner, and it's not, they just bring me in, I don't feel like, oh, I'm the third wheel or whatever, or the Martins or the Duns or the Kites. I just come in, I'm just in community. We are brothers and sisters in Christ, and I'm not out to get any of their husbands. We just all need community. And I learn so much from them, but I think they learn from me too, sharing things that they may not have thought of, and maybe can help in certain aspects of them raising their kids. I mean, it's beautiful when you see like, hey, we're brothers and sisters in Christ first, and remembering that, and them bringing me in has helped me not feel isolated. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Man. Well, is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up?
Thank you for doing this. I'm so proud of you. It's so fun.
About anxiety.
Yeah. First time me and Allie met, David brought her to, maybe I don't know if it's the first time we met, but we really talked when David brought you to that, like our family ministry Christmas party that we had in February. The most horrible windstorm blew in, and it was like kind of a theme party. Yeah, we rode in on hay rides, and I'm sure Allie was like, what am I getting into?
Everyone was dressed up like cowboy themed, but then someone was wearing like Cowboys like football.
You just never know what you're gonna get. But anyways,
like 3 weeks.
I know, I remember. And I was like, this poor girl's probably like, what's happening here?
Exactly right.
But no, I would just say like, get involved with people who don't look the same as you, or like whose lives don't look the same as you. And so maybe you're going to come to a women's class where the women are mostly older than you, or maybe you're going to go start serving in the preschool to serve other moms. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and there's so many ways to get involved. But if you just come to service, you will fly under the radar. And I don't think that you will live into the fullness of like what God has intended for church community. And I think anybody that you ask will say that. And who has experienced that, and who is a part of that, and who gets to be there when the cancer comes, or when the death comes, or when the whatever happens. And so there's not always a perfect answer, but I think there is a place where you can find and get plugged in. And that's what I would say to do.
Nice.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
We'll see y'all next time.